Hi, welcome to the Medicare Show. I'm your host, the Medicare advisor, Jeffrey Kuhn. In today's podcast, I'm going to come at you from the perspective of a certified financial planner. This is kind of a different episode. I've had some people ask questions, and it's really regarding money. And I've had a couple incidences I want to share with you. One in particular that happened to myself, and then something in the past week I came across. I thought it's relevant enough, and I don't typically ask clients. They typically come and ask me questions about this. And I think it's important enough to warrant a discussion around it. And it's your money. You know, one of the biggest things today people always complain about is the high cost of things. And inflation, I know, is hurting a lot of people out there, especially when we're dealing with seniors. You know, the rising cost of medications, Part D plans have gone up. We all know insurance is going up, our utility bills have all gone up. What are some of the things we can do to combat it? And I'm going to tell you what happened to me probably over a month ago, close to 2 months ago. And I was I was just looking at my statement from my business account, and I noticed there was a very small credit for interest. And I go, what? This is it's a fraction of what I have previously received every month. I go, why is this? So I end up calling up the bank and I go, what's going on with this? I go, my monthly interest is, it's like peanuts. And the bank dropped my interest rate on my account from 4% to, I'll call it nearly zero. It's so small. It didn't really matter. It was like 0.5%. And I go, what? What's going on? And I don't remember seeing a notice on it. Who knows? They probably sent it to me. I don't look at every piece of paper that comes in the mail like everybody else. Maybe I missed it, and the bank goes, well, we're merging with another bank possibly. Yeah, we dropped the rate. I got a phone call from the bank's business manager probably within a day. Calls me up and goes, I understand you're not happy. Let's see if there's something we can do, and quickly offered me a higher interest rate. And I looked and I go, this has gone on for a couple months. Like, I've missed out on this interest. I wasn't really happy about it. It took me having to call the bank to figure it out. So what do we do with cash? For a lot of people, I've looked at the rates, CD rates. I got some information before I did this podcast. I go, I got to share this. 4%, I think, is today, it's 2025. It's early February. We should be able to get 4% cash on your money without tying your money up in a CD. I walked in the bank and I saw they had a sign up. It said 5%, it said 4%, interest rates on these checking accounts. So I go, what's the deal with this? The 5% is for a maximum of $10,000. They'll give you that interest. So if you've got 10 grand, that's not bad when you look at it. But they do require you to use a debit card, which I've learned a long time ago. And I'll tell you a story on that, maybe another podcast, why you shouldn't use debit cards, why you should use credit cards. But they do require a number of different transactions on a debit card. And I go, yeah, that's just not for me. That's way too many. If I use anything that's going to be a credit card, they limit that interest at 10%. But regular checking accounts are giving out 4% on it. That can add up. So for me, I go, I can get cash, interest on my cash at 4%. So it's looking at saying, does a CD make sense? A lot of times not. If you've got enough money in the bank, then it may make sense. So, for a lot of people, you look at what's, 5% interest on 10,000, that adds up over the course of the year. Don't ignore your cash. That's the whole point of this. It's in the bank. You should be getting interest. Interest rates have come up a long way. You should be getting close to 4%. And CDs, this one instance, I'll tell you this story. I met with this woman probably, this was a month ago. I got called by an attorney to meet with her, help her figure out her Medicare. She thought she'd canceled her drug coverage and her supplemental plans. So I went over there, spent a couple hours with her, going through all this paperwork, figuring it out, made some phone calls, and then realized, you know what? You're fine. You didn't cancel anything. She actually had a credit balance, and she's a little bit older, about 93. For a 93-year-old, she's really sharp. She's done a great job. She's kind of on her own. Her daughter lives with her but doesn't help, and she's trying to navigate some things on her own. So I went through everything and told her, you're fine. I wrote it all down, and I left. I said, you don't need to change anything, and I wasn't charging her, obviously, to come over. I just did it as a service. Her friend called me back later. This was about a month afterwards. Had some questions. I shared with her what I did when I was there. And the woman wanted to hire me, wanted me to come back and help her figure some things out. She needed to get an attorney to do some estate planning and kind of get all of her ducks in a row. And she needed some help. I didn't have anybody. And she's showing me some of her stuff, and I'm sitting down. I was shocked at what I saw. She has a good pension. She's got assets she doesn't use. She's got 5% CDs, and they're laddered. So every month there's a new one coming due, and it gets reinvested because she doesn't need the money. And I'm looking at her statements, and over here I go, oh my God. I go, you've got roughly $500,000 sitting in cash in your account. She never touches it. She's got a regular checking account. Pension money goes into. She pays all her bills out of it. She even gives $3,000 a month to the nuns. And this other account's got $500,000 sitting in it doing nothing. There's like no interest on it. And I said to her, I go, do you realize like there's no interest on this? And I go, at the very least on $500,000, you can get 4% interest, leaving it where you can write checks and do what you want with it. That's $20,000 a year. Never even thought to ask anybody about it. Didn't look. I'm going, how many people out there have got cash sitting right now that they're just not looking at their bank or shopping around? It's so easy. I mean, if you look around locally, I've got rates all over the place. So what I did is I opened up another account for my business, 4% of my checking account. I can do really whatever I want with that money that sits in there, but it's a lot better than zero. And it adds up. So don't lose the opportunity cost, because every year, the dollar that you have in the bank now buys less goods than it did the year before. People are talking about, you hear out there, oh, there's been 20% inflation over the last few years. What does that really mean? Whether it's 20%, it's 10%, annualized, it's 4 or 5%. The amount really is irrelevant. The fact is your money's worth less. That $1 that you have in the bank, what it can buy today, is that product costs more in the following year, your money's getting devalued by not doing anything with it. So what does that mean? That $1, if inflation's 20%, you're down 80 cents. That's really what it's worth. You're losing money by not doing anything with it. 5%, you're at 95 cents, right? So you got to spend more money to buy the same goods and services. Don't let your money blow out the window like that. Make sure you're getting at least 4% on it. Even the smallest amounts, you can go into a bank and get 5% if you play the game right. So look at your accounts, find out what you're getting, and ask for more. Do something. We'll talk a little bit about property casualty insurance. That's one of the things, again, people don't ever look at or shop. And you'll be surprised. Most people don't change and the rates keep creeping up. I'm going to do a podcast and tell you the story about mine. And I had switched it twice in the last few years. So look at your accounts. Look at what you're getting for interest rate on your cash. Try to get yourself 4%. You can comment on this. Let people know what you found, where you found it. Every state's a little bit different. And if you thought this podcast was helpful, please share it with somebody that you think might benefit from looking at it or might have questions on it, or feel free to reach out to us. So hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Bye-bye.